everybody has a heaven to run towards and a hell to run from. You don't have to be like some crazy billionaire, but like just go do good, go make something of yourself. Because when you're in your early 20s or young 20s or mid 20s, there's that pressure of like, you got to make something of yourself. So I had a strong hell to run from and a new heaven to run towards, I guess. Create that if you can.
Welcome to the Grant Owen Podcast, where we explore the world of entrepreneurship. Join us as we dive into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to start, grow, and scale a successful business. We're on a mission to share our experiences, failures, insights, and advice with others. Whether you're just starting out in your entrepreneurial journey or you're looking to take your business to the next level, tune in and join the conversation about what it takes to succeed in the world of business.
We going full throttle.
Welcome to the Grant Owen Podcast. It is such a pleasure to have you. Thank you guys so much for the feedback that you guys have given and comments, likes, shares. It is super beneficial for me. I love hearing your thoughts. I love interacting with you on this, and I love just giving you value. As always, even though that is appreciated and ratings and everything does help, the thing that's most important to me is that if there's one person that could benefit from Jacob and his story in this conversation, that they would receive it, that they would hear it, that they would get the value. So if you listen to this and you're saying, I know someone that is in this kind of similar season. I know someone that that has these big aspirations. I know someone that wants to learn more about sales. They're in sales. Send them this video because more importantly than this being reached by a ton of people, I want it to be reached by the important people that need to hear it. So, Jacob, thank you so much for giving me your energy and giving me your time today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
First off, I have to ask this question, and this is completely. I've asked this to some people recently. Do you think this is not about you? This is completely random. Do you think this painting is a legit painting?
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters because if it's on your wall, it doesn't matter. Like if I think it's legit or anybody else thinks it's legit, because for all I know, that painting could be from like your daughter. I don't know, or a sentimental.
Dang it! It is. That's what
value.
I was. Oh goodness gracious! Dang it. Okay, because that's what I was trying. I'm 2 for 4 right now. I've asked a bunch of people in the last 2 days, and I've been like, hey, does it look like this was made by an artist? And 2 people were like, yes, it definitely has. And then you and one other person was like, that looks like it could probably was made by a toddler. And I was like, dang it.
So then it's legit. It
is. It's legit made. Yeah, exactly. This is legitimately made by a toddler, which is awesome. But I told my wife, I was like, buy some canvases. Let's get a bunch of stuff. I think next week I'm going to try to have like 6 on the wall, and maybe I'll play around and I'll have like 1 be legit, like 1 be like an actual painting, and then like just rotate the other 5 and just like have that be something where I'm like, every call I'm on, I'm just like, guess which one is the legit painting, and just see if I can bait it. Sorry, completely super random.
That was a fun way to start.
So I know so little about you, but the things I know are wildly impressive. And I don't love doing like give me all your origin story, but because of the context, because there's so little to go off of, I want to like start from the beginning. So my context into you is that you're an expert at building sales teams. You come with incredible credentials and people that you've worked with where you scaled their sales teams. So with that comes a ton of knowledge, and specifically outbound sales. With that comes a ton of knowledge and a ton of expertise and a ton of things that a lot of people want to know about. How did you get into that? How did you get into that industry as a whole? Was that just part of your personality? Did you do door-to-door sales? Like, what? Tell me how you transitioned into what you currently are an expert at.
Yeah, great question. I got started kind of late, to be honest with you. Later than a lot of like salespeople that I meet and interact with, actually. My story is a little bit different. I was getting my master's in exercise science. I was working as a part-time personal trainer, so I did a little bit of sales there. Not really. I was more so on the gym floor, like coaching and training. But I was working part-time as a trainer, like substitute teacher. I had no idea that this whole online space existed. This was in 2014, 2015-ish. Okay. And I just was going to school because it was like my parents' dream for me and my grandparents' dream for me that never really had the opportunity to get a great education. And I did. So I just listened to them and it's like, all right, cool. I'll just get an education and just see where it goes. So I had no plan. I hated school, but I knew it was just something that I wanted to do. But I was in a period too where I had lost my father. I had taken care of him for almost 8 years. and he had like some health problems, and so almost like my whole life shifted after he passed, and it was like, okay, cool. What do you really want out of life, Jacob? Like, so long story short, did some traveling back then. Went to Europe.
Don't give me I don't want long story short. I don't want long story short. Give me the context there. So,
Sure.
you were going for your master's in 2014, and that's where you started, or you had graduated from your master's in 2014. That's when you started.
I was in my master's program in 2014. Dad got really sick. He was super sick for the last like 3 or 4 years of his life, debilitating. It was ugly. I won't get into too much detail. But at that point of my life, like if anybody's listening to this and you're like struggling with something like that, like it was almost this weird transformational thing where I felt like my father's loss of life and like continuous like loss of function and loss of life, I almost like inherited his life. It's hard to explain because there was all these things that I was just starting to notice at that time, and energy and like new perspectives and different things. Like, for example, like just simple books like Think and Grow Rich, because I'm from a very small town where it's just like all you do is either become a teacher, because that's what like my brother did, and like that's what people we knew did, or like my dad worked a trade, like very small town. So I never even understood that. Wildemar, California.
Okay.
It's like nobody's ever heard of it.
Where is it? Like in
SoCal.
in conjunction with like southern? Okay.
Yeah, SoCal, like an hour north of San Diego, but inland, nowhere by the beach, nowhere pretty. And so all I knew basically, that was all I knew growing up, was just like I was going to become a teacher, or like maybe I'll become a PE teacher or like a trainer. I don't know. I just had no idea that like online income or anything existed like that, or building remote teams or anything. And back then it didn't really exist. I'm 32. So like, I don't know. It was just kind of a different era. Didn't really grow up with like all these things. And so, I just got a new perspective on my life, and I realized I didn't want to go down that route. And I finally got the courage to ask myself, life's finite. Like, what do you really want to do? And so I just sat there and just started game planning. I had backpacked Europe for 2 months solo, was amazing. Got eye-opening perspectives. I'm like, man, it would be so cool to live in Latin America, because my dad's side of my family is Latin American. Learn Spanish, learn B2B sales, and do it in the fitness industry. And I just started throwing out stupid ideas of like how to do that. And lo and behold, I found a European software company called Virtua Gym. And they had a big market share in Europe, but they were trying to break into the US market. And so they had an office in Los Angeles, but they wound up moving it to Medellin, Colombia. And so without any hesitation, I interviewed for the role, and it was like an outbound cold calling role. There was like nothing in place, and packed up and moved everything to Colombia to learn Spanish, learn B2B sales in the fitness industry. And it was an office full of expats. So half the office was like Colombians, and because we would sell to Latin America as well. And then the rest of the half, and they were Mexican, Colombian, Brazilian, from all over the world. And the other half of the office was European, Canadian, American, and we would sell to the US and Canada, Australia, New Zealand.
Gotcha.
Right?
So you weren't having to, I was like, are you having to sell and speak Spanish selling? That'd be pretty tough. That'd be tough to be like, I'm going to learn this language and I'm going to sell. That'd be a tough start.
No. So everything was in English. I did wind up making a couple sales in Spanish due to like having Puerto Rican clients in Miami that needed to speak Spanish or whatever. Once my Spanish got proficient enough, but no, I was cold calling, and they had no processes in place. It was very well run organization, but they didn't have any processes yet because the whole concept of cold calling for them was brand new. And so anything from lists to nothing really existed. I was literally using Google and like a phone, like to dial and set meetings. So that's how I got into sales. Like, I don't know where do you want to stop, but that's how I got into sales, was because I realized that my life path when I was in my mid-20s wasn't what I wanted. It was what my grandparents wanted and my parents. And I just wound up taking a risk because I wanted to live abroad for a little while before I like settled down and had kids or whatever. I figured like this is an opportunity to do it. And it just met every criteria of like all my crazy ideas that and like my lifestyle, the skills I wanted to build, all that. So
well, we can park there for a second, because it sounds like you did something that I don't think a lot of people do, which is in transitionary moments, genuinely assess with intentionality the things you want. Which that's a kind of superlative, but I think a lot of people reach these pivotal moments, and I think like parents dying, family member dying, or anything like that just kind of makes you reassess right? And especially it sounds like if you had a whole season where you're taking care of him, right? And that was probably something that dominated your life and your energy. There's like this
Sure.
newfound freedom to be like, what do I want to do? A lot of people don't even ask that. I've found a lot of people don't even ask in the sense like, what are all the things that I like? What are the things that I'm good at? And let me try to match those two. So did you have a personality where you're like always good at sales? If you said that was your first like cold calling situation, were you introverted or always extroverted? Like what do you think?
I had a personal mindset coach. I hired a coach, and she defined me as an ambivert, I think the word is, or an ambivert. It's basically like
omnivert.
Omnivert.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was combining ambidextrous. Sorry, I'm ambidextrous, but yeah, omnivert. To where like, given certain situations, I'll be extroverted. Given certain situations, I'll be introverted. And I think that's pretty true with me. I've been kind of both. Yeah.
Okay. And then a lot of people look down on cold calling. A lot of like it's like same thing with door-to-door sales. I do think like the younger you are, the sooner you're exposed to that, you're just going to like handling rejection at that level, that consistently all day long, and being like, I'm just going to grow a thick skin, is such an amazing skill to have. How fast did you realize you got good at it?
Within my first week, I knew. Like, I went through the class. Yeah, like within my first week, I knew on the phones. I onboarded, and funny enough, I was maybe a week or two into my onboarding. They had a pretty proper onboarding process. They were pretty good. They had a lot of things in place besides like a business development department. And I walk into the office one day, and half of the office was gone. I'm like, what's going on? And then you could hear a pin drop. Classic like SaaS period of like where they overhired and like whatever. Like it was like the SaaS like motion of like hire people, but then like half the people were gone. And I was still there, and I was like freaked out. And so that lit like a fire into my butt really fast. I realized I just dropped out of my master's program. I didn't finish my master's. I dropped out. Everybody was like, why don't you just stay, keep you're like this close, like just keep doing it. And I went down there and everybody got fired. I'm like, fuck, like if I don't figure this out, can I cuss on here?
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody's like, so that lit a fire into my butt to like really get going fast. But I knew within the first week that I had something just, but
they did mass layoffs. They didn't lay off sales because I'm guessing they probably needed sales.
They did lay off sales.
They did? So
they laid off
why would they not prioritize new people? Was it just because you were such a standout in that first week?
Yes, I think that was a big part of it. Yeah, they did prioritize. They did prioritize new people because I came in with a batch of 2 or 3 other guys, and there was 4 of us total. 2 made it, and the other 2 didn't. So myself and one other guy made it, and the other guys didn't. So, yeah, I think it was because I came in and just showed and I during my interview process, I didn't know what I was doing. But one question I asked like during that interview was like, who do you guys have within your company that has like background in the fitness space? And they were like, nobody. I'm like, okay. Like I just found that weird. And little did I know that it was like a key sales question that like, like that's sales right there. It's just asking the right question to expose a gap, right?
Yep.
And so I think that part of it played my favor as well. But yeah, it was a crazy time, and I was super nervous, but it lit a fire into me to like really get going. So
love that.
Yeah, that was a funny one for sure.
How long were you at this role, or like did you jump to being like top sales performer pretty fast? Was it like you obviously were like, I'm good at this, and you're talking about, you emphasize that they didn't have systems. Were you like, let me build these systems? Is that kind of like where you kind of got started? Yeah.
So as far as being a top performer, like as a cold caller, it happened relatively fast. I went through I definitely went through growing pains each level. But I also did some inbound. So like they would request a demo, but we would still have to go outbound to them. But the majority of my experience as an SDR or BDR was cold calling, pure cold. And so we started getting a plan together and going after competitors. We had some integrations with other like larger software companies that we would, finally get some lists, but this was a while into it. But before all that was kind of going, we had like a competitor strategy, and then like just an idea of like, we had an idea of who our ICP was, which is nice, like our ideal customer. But the process was like we would have to physically scrape the data and like go through and do all these like copy paste, like I was like, dude, like this is like a VA task. And
Yeah.
I thought I was being like overly cocky and like I didn't know anything. I was like, no, just do your role, whatever. But I'm like, let me hire this dude. I'm like, I just went on Fiverr and I just hired a guy because we would spend almost a full day. And I was like, man, I could be
Yeah.
booking calls right now. I could be booking meetings. And so that's how it kind of started. I was like, I just took the initiative to hire a guy on Fiverr. It's like, hey, here's all you need to do. Do it for me, please. Thank you. And it was like $5, whatever. It's like, really cheap.
Yeah.
And my manager saw that and he was like, why don't we do that at scale? I was like, yeah, let's do this at scale. And so that was one of the big things I helped put together the data team there, of like hiring and like all this stuff. So we had a
Quietly,
team of in the SaaS
quickly
world.
adding a week. Quickly just adding like a day a week of productivity.
Right.
That's crazy.
And in the SaaS world, they're called LRRs, but that team wound up scaling to like 20. No, not 20. Maybe total we had about 20, but like 10, 15 people that would just scrape our total addressable market. And then we wound up getting, I was like, okay, cool. How else can we get lists? I'm like, great. We have an integration with this software company that was a lot bigger than us. It's like, why don't we hit up, like, see if we can get their data? And like, so it was typical startup vibe, like our headquarters was in Amsterdam. And so we were kind of like the little brother office, which was cool because it gave us a chance to like wear a bunch of hats and like do things the hard way while everybody was learning Facebook ads. Like this was like 2017, 2018. Facebook ads were super cheap, etc. Well, everybody was learning Facebook ads and all this stuff. Like I was learning cold calling and learning how to wear multiple hats and build an actual department. I had no idea that these skill sets were valuable at the time. I was just doing what I was like, it just came to me. Like, just do this.
Yeah.
Like, why are, like, so yeah. So anyways.
That's crazy. That's great. Okay, so what was there a point? I'm guessing that you were like, I've outgrown this. I've outgrown this company. I've outgrown this. Like, I should just do this for other people. Did you jump to that?
Yeah, good question. So at that point, I had cold called somebody and closed them because I wound up closing deals, and then we scaled. Once I became a closer, I was the top producer as a cold caller, so we had to hire a bunch of people to scale the team. And we were in a position now where we had actual leadership and stuff, and we were growing, and we proved the process out. And so there's another guy on our team that did pretty well. We both moved up to being closers at the same time, and so they had to hire like a bunch of people to replace just us two. And so all of a sudden we had a full team of SDRs or BDRs, and we were closing deals. So we would basically help and coach them, all the like create an onboarding process, all that. And then I wound up closing deals as well. But it was during that time that I cold called a gym, and he was like, in the close, he was like, by the way, do you guys have any like deals or like affiliate deals with Gym Launch? And this was like mid 2018, somewhere around there. And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell that is. Like he's like, yeah, like it's a company that whatever, blah blah blah. And I get done with the deal, I close them, and I go Google of like what this was. And I'm like immediately hooked. I'm like, I couldn't tell you. It was something spiritual, to be honest with you. Like, I knew that was my next step in my career. It was like, who is this guy? Right? It's like, who is this guy? Like, what's going on with this? It was like, I just remember the day super clearly. One of the colleagues that I was with that sat next to me saw me like doing this. He was like, I'm like, dude, check this out. He was like, dude, that's a perfect fit for you. It was great working with you. Have a good time, like, whatever. But there was a lot that I still wanted to accomplish at that time. Like I still wasn't the top producing closer. There were better guys than me. There was still a lot to learn. So I still wasn't the top producing closer at that time. We sold to multi-location fitness centers. So like large, like big box gyms, right? With a lot of them had multi-location stuff like that. Like, man, like there's still so much I need to learn about how to like manage deals that are at that level that have multiple stakeholders, multiple locations. And like, I haven't really truly accomplish what I want to accomplish here that I set out at this company, because I had goals at that company that I wanted to do and I hadn't hit them yet. Right. So in the meantime, I obsessed. I listened to that Gym Launch podcast, Alex's podcast. I had his book shipped down to me in Colombia.
Nice.
And
this is Gym Launch Secrets, right? Not even $100 million.
Yeah.
Just Gym Launch Secrets. Yeah.
Yeah, this was Gym Launch Secrets. Had the book shipped down to me, studied it back and forth, used a lot of that information within my sales processes. And finally, over the course of the next year or so, like became like the truly like top performer, broke a couple records as a closer, whatever. And then
or whatever. Yeah, you just say like you're saying this, and it's like I love how you were talking about your introduction to Gym Launch, and it's like they're asking if you have affiliates, and you're like, so I closed them, and then I just got the deal done, and then I just moved on and started researching it. It's like your personality is so like I have zero doubt. Like you're just a top closer. Like I can just see it. You're just like you're a stone cold killer. It makes sense that you would work with someone like Alex, because I was like, you got killer like in your bones. It's the way you vocalize things. You're so direct. I love it.
It's funny you say that, and this is a little bit of a side tangent, but like I did break some records at my like previous company, but I was never the best closer, like to be honest with you, which is why I believe that like, and the data constantly say like Mark Roberge, he's phenomenal. He was one of the original people at HubSpot. If you don't know, he was one of the original salespeople at HubSpot.
That's crazy.
The data constantly say that the best closers don't make for the best managers, and I thought I was good, because I was in this little company and we were whatever, like we were doing okay, whatever. But like once I stepped out and I saw like, holy shit, there are dudes at a whole nother level. I realized I was like decent, but hopefully a better leader and manager than I am actually a closer, but whatever. So anyways, before we chatted, you mentioned you wanted the not LinkedIn version of my story. And so this is where it kind of doesn't get appropriate for LinkedIn or whatever. I don't even have LinkedIn. I kind of do. But during that time, and this is kind of a lesson and this is a mission of why I kind of want to come on this podcast as well, is like how to not self-sabotage. And there's a book called The Big Leap on this topic, which is a fantastic book. So during that time that so Q4, I think of 2019, or around that time, that was the quarter that I broke a record, but it was also the quarter that I nearly killed myself and died. So during that time, I was in a great rhythm, like going to the gym before work, reading before work, coming home, studying Spanish. Like I had my routine just dialed in. Like, so I would like all work to get better at my job, like just stuff before work hard during my work hours, come home, either learn Spanish or chill, whatever. Like, but like my whole life was like just really progressing, and I finally had like momentum, and I was like, man, I think I'm going somewhere. And so in order to stay out on the weekends, Colombia is an amazing place, and it's incredible. Like I've been here for almost 6 years now. Well, long story short, I like had, in order, if I wanted to stay out over the weekend, I would need a little bit of a boost to keep me awake, because I was literally waking up at 5 every day, studying, going to the gym, great routine. And so it was never a big part of my life, but yeah, like I'd used cocaine maybe 5 to 6 times. And I was
actually, was that part of the culture too? Was that a part of like the sales culture of the team there as well?
Good question. That's a really good question. Yes. And it wasn't until like, I never really, outside of work, I was always pretty solo up until this period. But then I really started to integrate a little bit. Amazing people. I was still very close with all of them. But yeah, it became a little bit part of the culture. It was a very much work hard, play hard type of place. And I went home for Christmas that year. And had hung out with my family, had a great time, and yeah, when it happened, I was completely sober, hanging out at my mom's house. Thank God, because if I was here, I don't know if I would have lived. But yeah, I wound up having apparently a full blown heart attack. I don't even remember the day. I just remember I don't remember the day. It's all gone from my memory. And this was 2 days after Christmas of 2019. And yeah, I had a full blown heart attack, I guess. I was in the best shape of my life physically, setting PRs in the gym, everything. It was just my body, and it was not a big part of my life. Like honestly, like it was like I would do bumps here and there or whatever. It wasn't some like addict. There's not some like story like that. It was just like party, have fun, whatever. And apparently my body just rejected it and caused a blood clot. And I spent 7 days in the hospital. Like had like the full, my body was frozen for a while. They didn't know, they were telling my family, like, he may not know who you are when he wakes up. We don't know what type of brain damage was done during that time. And so I remember waking up from the hospital just being like in disbelief. They went up my, anyways, to remove the clot. Wound up living. And so I kind of, everybody that I've ever worked with knows about this. And I was a little hesitant to even share this type of stuff because like it's probably pushed a lot of people away, but like it's part of my story and I feel like it's important. And I think the lesson from it is about self-sabotage. Like when you have so much momentum going, like you don't do things to take you out of that momentum, and that was like just stupid shit that I did that nearly cost me my life and cost me my career, nearly cost me everything. And so the doctor basically had me on bed rest for 90 days to heal, and went back later that March, and I was lost during that period, as you could tell. Like I was just like distraught. Like it was just like it was crazy. Like it was very, very traumatic. Because every day I didn't know.
Tell me about that. Tell me, because you had a previous, like the previous time you had experienced something that is just like, I would say traumatic. Like any level of loss is traumatic. It shifted you into this like larger perspective where you shaped your life into what you wanted it to be. This time you almost had to be honest, it's like a forced depression because anything on bed rest sucks. Anything. Like there's just no way that you're going to feel great. You're away from your home, right? And you're like in a different context. I imagine the thoughts you're having throughout that whole thing is just like, like you're having to reassess what life really is about. Tell me about that. Tell me about how you're feeling and like, did that positively shape you, or was it like, man, that was something I had to overcome?
I'm still overcoming aspects of it to this day, and this was almost 4 years ago. But during that time, my birthday is in February. And so during that time, I was just bedridden for my birthday, and I'll always remember like the day of my birthday, just like sitting there like with my mom. Like my mom, fortunately, she was there like with me, so I wasn't like really alone. But like I just remember like questioning everything. It's like, do I ever even like get to have a family? Like I'm not going to be like, if I can't walk up a hill, like why would I ever? What woman will ever even desire me? Like what like why would I ever like get into a relationship even if I could? Why would I ever have kids again? Like am I even going to be able to walk up the street, again? And so all these thoughts were definitely going through my mind because I just didn't know anything. Because I had no insurance in the US. Like I was full Colombian based. I had everything was there. And so like I couldn't like go and get a bunch of tests or whatever. So like the doctor was just like, just wait for 90 days and we'll come back and do another echo. So during that 90 days, I pondered everything. I was away from my coworkers, away from everything. And I just remember sitting there thinking like, will I ever be able to do basic shit again? Like walk up a street, Yeah. Because she left me as my options were rest for 90 days. You're either going to make a full recovery, you're going to need a pacemaker, or you're going to need a heart transplant. So I'm like, am I even going to wake up tomorrow? Like that was a lot of my reality.
Oh my gosh. So you're like living in constant state of like, I might die. I might go, this might be it. And you're just like, there's just no certainty of day by day. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it was a crazy time. And then of course, March comes and COVID starts to roll around. And I'm like, what is going on with all this? Like this, like, what is even happening in the world? Like for me personally, what I was going through, and it's like, okay, what is even happening? And I go get my echo and echocardiogram, my test, and everything was good. My heart, the cardiologist was like, she was in like SoCal. She was in Laguna Beach, really well known. Like we fortunately had a connection. But anyways, heart was good. Then COVID hits, and my girlfriend at the time, who I was seeing, told me, hey, they're shutting the border down of Colombia. Like you need to get here if you want to come. And so like without hesitation, I just shipped I was like, my doctor told me to stay. She's like, don't fly, just stay, like recover here more, whatever. I'm like, no, like I got to get down there. Unfortunately I did, because I probably would have lost my job at that time. Like they just probably would have had to cut me because, as you know, like, so many companies went through cuts and just like things were changing. Yeah. Fortunately I had performed really well that previous quarter, but I was like, nah, like I'm going, I don't care. Like, and so just went down there, was back in Colombia and did the whole quarantine thing in Colombia. And then just slowly but surely kind of came back into sales. And I never truly got back to, I mean, it was like playing football. Like I had a really bad broken foot, never came back as much as I would want to. Same thing. Like I never, as a closer, never really came back to like where I really wanted to be. But you asked earlier, like, when did you outgrow that? Or like, when did you know that it was like time to go? And this was during that time. So like that summer, the head of partnerships comes to me, and they knew that like I would talk about like Jim Launch and Alex all the time. So they knew I was like already a big fan, and they were like, hey, do you think we could, form a partnership with these guys? I'm like, I don't know, let's try. And so we requested a sales call, with their like top sales guy. And we wound up, long story short, like getting up to their CTO, because this was when they were scaling Alan, as well as Alex. And so I think this was that summer of 2020, roughly. I was on a meeting with my CEO, our director of partnerships, their CTO, and Alex. And I'm like just a fly on the wall for the meeting. And I was like, this is amazing. This is so cool. At the end of the meeting, I'm like, hey, by the way, like I know I was just a fly on the wall. I got your book right here. Big fan. Like really appreciate what you're doing. And so partnership didn't go anywhere, whatever. They had already some stuff going, but like I was like kind of my foot in the door. And I had already like applied to a random role just to get to know their HR person. Cause I knew like if I'm going to land this deal somehow, I'm going to have to, it's going to be sort of like a multi-stakeholder thing. Like I was telling you earlier, like I understood sales. So I understood like how to manipulate, or not manipulate, but like work kind of multiple people within an organization. Right. So I'm like, cool, requested, got to know the HR person, got finally way up there with them. Fortunately, like, and got to meet Alex for like just a little bit on the call. And month or two later, I was just like, man, I'm not progressing here. Like, I think it's time for like a new change. I was doing okay, like closing, I was doing well, hitting target, no problem, but I was never like crushing it. But I'm like, man, like I feel like if I took that next step, this is always what I wanted to do. So anyways, I just took a photo of Alex's book with like a cool background. My apartment had a really cool background in Colombia at the time, like very green, beautiful. So like, hey, do you ever thought your book would make it to Colombia? Haha. He reposted it. And every time I like DM'd him, I'm like, don't DM him. He's never going to respond. You don't matter. Like you don't matter. Like he's never going to see you. You don't provide any value. Like there's always that voice. So if anybody listening, like shoot your shot, because shot my shot. It was like, hey, by the way, I'm Jacob, the sales guy that you met in a few months ago. Was hoping you guys were hiring. Haha. And he's like, yeah, we actually are. I was like, great. I'm going to send Jessica my information, or whoever their HR girl was at the time. Like I just like made it known that I had like already like I tried to form a relationship with them, like, and let it known like, oh, I know your people. So like kind of thing. Right. Yeah. So wound up getting hired as a closer. They rescinded the contract just due to like lead flow.
Wait, holy shit. Wait, no. Wait, are you the person that he's talking about in $100 million leads?
Can I say that publicly? Yeah, but yeah, it's me. Yeah.
If you can't say that publicly, that is crazy. Because I was listening, and then I'm tying it next to your story. That is insane. Okay, so continue. I'm connecting the dots. Anybody that's listening to this can connect the dots. But like that, tell me about that. So he rescinded the offer. Because I'm hearing it from your perspective, and my perspective is from the other side of the conversation. Yeah. So you DM'd, and because in it he references you as like a really good guy, and he's like, I feel like this guy's such a killer, right? And he's like, I want to believe in him.
Mm-hmm. So what happened was, I got word from the organization, like, hey, like we want to bring you on, we just don't know when, like, and it's not going to be like they pushed it back. It's probably not going to be anytime soon. And I understood. I'm like, dude, the world's crazy right now. It's like the middle of COVID. Like our company's going through stuff, we're okay, but like we're making it, but like, it's just a crazy time. Right. And so I'm like, I get it. And so same thing. I DM'd Alex again because I had been dealing with like the rest of the organization, but then I DM'd Alex again. And every time though, I was like, don't DM him. You don't matter. You don't provide value. Like it was just like that fear. Right. Cause I'd looked up to him so much. And I said, hey, heard the contract got rescinded. really bummed that we won't be able to work together, but I understand because like everything's crazy right now in the fitness industry, but I know we're going to be working together someday. I just know it. Like I have a feeling. And I wrote that in the message and went to sleep. That was a Friday. And then that Saturday morning is like, you know, what you read about in the book of how the rest of the conversation kind of transpired. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome. So in that, was it okay for you to still be in Colombia throughout that time? Like, was it still okay for you to be remote? What was that transition like? Because you're like,
yeah.
you know, you kept on shooting your shot. Which, first off, if you're listening to this, people, right? Like, and I'm listening to this, I'm feeling encouraged, right? Because like I'm in a similar spot where like Alex is like, I've been pretty much following Alex exclusively. Like I read Gym Launch Secrets, same thing, and I was like, man, this book's awesome. It's doing so many different things. And then I think I heard a podcast of his. The first one I heard of him was, I think, on My First Million. I think it was the first podcast I heard. And then I just went on a deep dive. And after I heard that podcast, I think he was about to launch $100 million offers, or he had already like recently launched it. And I was like, dang, this is really cool. The people that I've interacted with, that have worked with him and have a similar story to yours, where it's like there's that hesitation that says like, don't do it because I'm not important, I don't matter, I'm not going to have an impact, there's no way. And all of them have overcome that. And so thanks for sharing that, because I think like there's people that are listening to this that have other people in mind, or have that job in mind, or have that thing in mind, where they say like they have that self-sabotaging thought that's like, it's not arrogance. It's not like to send that text, to send that DM. It's not being arrogant. It's not even almost being confident either. It's just trying. It's just putting yourself out there. And so like that's what's so cool is like hearing both sides of the story is like, that's really interesting to me. That's really impactful for me, because it's like, yeah, Grant, send that DM. And I think anybody else, if you're hearing it, like, listen to Jacob, send that DM, send that thought process, because I think you never know. At 10 times, you know, 10 times you might get left on red or never get seen, but the 11th time, you know, and if you're willing to do it 200 times, I guarantee something good is going to happen. So, yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat right now. So tell me about what happened next.
Yeah. So then, I mean, that conversation happened. I was scared during that whole conversation. I'm like, holy shit, like I'm talking with my idol right now. Like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And had to just kind of explain, you know, our process. I was like, yeah, if lead gen's the bottleneck, here's what I did at my previous company. Like, you're interested in doing it. So, we wound up having a great conversation, amazing people, him and Layla. And he was like, cool, you want to start Tuesday? I'm like, let's do it. Like, let's go. I've never built a team. And I was like, you know, how the conversation went in the book. I was like, yeah, I've never like built a team from scratch, but I've like done kind of from a high level. So I think I can figure it out. And I was like 7 out of 10, like, you know, honestly, like he's like, cool, let's do it. So it was a dream come true, man. Honestly, I had written about it in journals and stuff. Like it was a dream come true for me. You know, I told my mom about it like way before. Like I was just like, found this amazing company. I'm going to work there someday. They're not hiring. I'm going to pitch them an offer. I have all the texts and stuff like still as screenshots, just kind of as a reminder for me. It's really special. And so, yeah, I mean, at Gym Launch was amazing. Learned so much. Like Grant Owen, like who's making a really big name for himself now on social media as well. Like he was the GM acting as kind of CEO at the time, like incredible human being. You know, and just being able to be a part of that environment was like, okay, I know what it means to be a professional now. Like I know, like I had like basic foundational skills and like whatever, but like I know what it means to be a professional now. I really learned that there. And
tell me about like, so were you brought in and you're brought in to build the outbound team?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, and were you were still in Colombia at the time, or did they have you relocate?
Yeah, I was still in Colombia. I was
freaking
still
rad.
in Colombia. And it was funny, man. I remember being like, I've always been back and forth about like, do I want to go back to the States? Whatever. And so during the time I'm like, yeah, I'm going to come back. I swear I'm going to come back. But like, I never wound up going back. Like I'd visited a few places in Florida to go maybe live or whatever, but like I never wound up making the move. And so, yeah, I was doing all this from fucking Colombia. The whole company was remote anyways. So like they had always been remote. So like, it was not really a big transition for them. It was like, they kind of care, but it was like, if you can provide value, like you'll make it. Right. So that was always my dream is like, man, like just felt like I was going to get fired every single day. Like it was slow, it was right in the middle of COVID. I was during my onboarding period as well. Like we had talked about building the outbound team, but I was like, I want to be a closer here though as well. Cause like, I know I can make really good money, whatever. And so I was trying to close, while trying to build the outbound team right in the middle of COVID. And looking back on it, had I just focused on building the outbound team, it probably would have happened faster. But I was like really just spread thin, trying to close, and like I didn't want to go back to cold outbound almost. It was like, no, I want to be a closer. Like you make it through the ranks and you become, but little did I know I was building the skill set that would like wind up helping me like where I'm at today is like leading teams and building teams. I didn't realize how valuable that was. I thought like closer was just like the end all be all, So
yeah. Well, so tell me, did they identify that in you, or did you eventually identify that in yourself, where it's like, I just really need to focus on this?
So it was more so them. So what happened was there were 2 closers that were really good that went over to Allen to sell, and then they came back to Gym Launch. And so when they came back to Gym Launch, it was like, let's just go full blow, like full blow on this outbound thing and make it happen. And so it was more so them. And then, but I was like resistant to it. I was like, damn, I really like closing though. I was finally getting the hang of it. It was a tough sale right in the middle of COVID at Gym Launch, really high ticket stuff to gyms. And finally got the hang of it, started producing decently. And then I felt like a big failure because I'm like, man, like if I can't do both, like I'm always going to, I don't know. It was just like a weird thing. But once I started getting into my rhythm, I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like I love interacting with like, the classic young sales guy that wants to make something of himself. And like, I truly love helping guys like that out. And so I was like, dude, this is sweet. Like, this is where I can truly provide value to not only people, but the organization and everything. So,
yeah. I want to, so like, tell me about the inflection point, right? Because in my mind, like you're telling me even in your vision, you're like, I made it. I did it. I met with Alex, I met with Layla, I'm on the team, I'm crushing it, I'm building something, I'm a part, and like you said, you had referenced in the beginning, like it's almost spiritual. Like when you first found it was like there's almost like this spiritual connection to it. Tell me about that transition then out of it. Like, because you're saying there was a point where you realized I can grow even bigger. I can do this, like the skill set I've built here, I can do this for other people, and I'm outgrowing this. Which a lot of people would probably think is like the goal. There's probably a lot of killer salespeople out there that are like working, with acquisition.com or working with Gym Launch or working with Kale even is like, that's like the dream. That's like, I want to sell this. I want to do this because of so many things connected to that brand. So when did you figure out like, man, I think I want to do this for myself?
Yeah, it still wasn't even after Gym Launch, to be honest with you. And I think this is an important part of my story as well is like, back to the self-sabotaging thing and to the non-LinkedIn kind of LinkedIn experience of my story or version of my story is like to cope with a lot of stress that I was under because I was still recovering from what I had nearly dying. And so I was still under a lot of anxiety and all these things. Like I was never like an alcoholic or anything. Like maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe that's the first sign of one. I don't know. But like, I was abusing
I just have
alcohol.
A drink every night.
No, I was truly like abusing alcohol during my end of days there at Gym Launch, and all of a sudden we grew so fast, and like I was like in the back of my mind, I'm like, holy shit, like this happened, and I was like, we grew fast, and it was like a roller coaster ride, and I didn't handle it well. Like I was abusing alcohol, like stressed, and I actually like wound up lacking the emotional intelligence and character traits towards the end of my days there that I like still live with a lot of regret from. But there was still what you said. There was like, I can grow, and I did want to get out of the fitness industry as well. It's like, dude, I finally saw like how big like certain industries were and all this stuff. So I need to get out of the fitness industry. But at the same time, I messed up in a lot of ways, whereas like everything was like perfect. And it was like everything that I had like told myself that I was going to do. But I was like stressed at the same time. And it's like, in the back of my mind, it was like, you don't deserve the success almost. Like if you've ever read The Big Leap, you can probably really resonate with this. It's like people reach their goal and they like wind up like self-sabotaging coming back down. and that was what I went through a bit of, like, towards the end of my days at Gym Launch. Like, I didn't handle myself well, to be honest with you. I still have like decent relationships with people there, and like I made some relationships with people that I hope will last a lifetime.
Yeah.
But I didn't handle myself well towards the end of my days there. I didn't handle my emotions well. Didn't handle just everything, the growth well. And so I wound up leaving, but it was regrettable how I left. And it was a big learning experience in terms of like, there were some gripes internally with things that were like amongst the team or whatever that I had, like, that were going on. I'm like, that were pretty legit, but I didn't handle it well. Like I wasn't mature enough. I didn't have the emotional maturity. I didn't have the character traits of a truly great leader, like that could handle the good, bad, ugly, everything in between, right? With more of a stoicism, if you will. And so I didn't know. I left not having a plan.
Goodness gracious, dude.
After that,
let me just stop you right there. I connect so much with that. That is, like, first off, to have the balls to admit that, to even say like I didn't have the emotional intelligence, to own that, to be humble in that. That is so cool, and I think like that in my mind validates so much of your character, of what you are about to say. Which I'm still excited. I'm like, I want to hear more of the story, because there's more names, there's more people, there's more things you've accomplished. But to say like you left on the terms you didn't want to leave on, you didn't handle with the emotional intelligence, like you've accomplished so much, and you're talking about the legitimacy of like, here's the rawness. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't flawless, it wasn't an amazing transition, and you own it. That just speaks so much to the character element of what I value, and what I'm hoping the audience resonates with is that. There's a couple themes throughout this process of self-sabotaging. There's a couple themes of this process of like coping, and then there's a lot of it you're just talking about like there's an element where like believing in yourself is one thing, and then not getting in your own way is another thing, and then also just dealing with the stressors of things that are naturally traumatic for anybody that are having to deal with it. Thanks for sharing that kind of stuff, because I think those are things that everyone, no matter how stressed the environment is, no matter whether you're doing sales, whether you're doing things at the highest level or the lowest level, people can resonate with that. And I think I appreciate it because I resonate with that. I think we tend to get in our own way. And you're talking about like, this is a journey. Like you joined them 3 years ago amidst COVID, right? And we're in 2023. And you're saying this with the ability to have the retrospect to say, yeah, that wasn't what I wanted to do. That wasn't who I wanted to be. That's super cool. I really appreciate your humility in that. I just want to thank you for it. So tell me when you did leave, what happened next? What did you assess? Did you have a reset point, or did it naturally progress into something else because someone else just wanted you to snatch you up?
Yeah. So I wound up seeing a tweet, and there's another theme. It's like it goes down in the DMs. From the great philosopher who sung that song, Yo Gotti or Gucci Man. Incredible philosophers we've got in today's day and age. But no, jokes aside, I saw a tweet of another entrepreneur that I had followed for a while, and he was like, "Yeah, I need somebody that has experience building outbound teams." So I DM'd him. I was like, "Hey, like, here's what I've done," and him and Alex knew each other, so like. Apparently they had a conversation, and it was like, yeah, like, he's pretty decent. He has like, I don't know, from what I've told, like, some flaws or whatever, but like overall good dude, like go for it, I guess. And so, yeah, that was with Evans and Welch, like traffic and funnels and and sales mentor. And then that was a different experience. I really learned HubSpot. I learned a lot of different things there. They operated at such a high level as well. incredible people that were there. That was my next step. And so like during that period, these are still things that I like still think about a lot, is like entrepreneurship. And I was like, was I ready? It was like, this is something that like Alex still talks about all the time, is like outworking your self-doubt. I'm like, I'm not going to just start a company after this. Like, I'm not going to like go like do this. I still want to, there's still so much more I need to learn. And so wound up working there for a while. It was an incredible experience. Met up with who my current partner is now. And we wound up like wound up doing some really good things there, but like it just didn't wind up working out in general. And
Yeah.
the whole brand really like isn't really existent anymore. But incredible learning experience there. Learned HubSpot,
Yeah.
learned a lot of things about how to systematize, take advantage of companies that had done an incredible job of front end, top of funnel marketing and had produced a ton of top end leads, but
Yeah.
learned and really integrated how to and brought a lot of things to the table there in terms of like how to set up systems to like prioritize and like find out how do we take advantage of that middle of the funnel. And so from there, that's how like we got connected as well, is because after that wound up doing kind of our own thing, myself and my partner, who's truly the founder. His name's Joey. He's an incredible guy. Really, really good. Can't say enough good things.
Tell me about him more. Like, so connecting with him, Joey wasn't the person you previously mentioned as saying like that was the best closer at HubSpot. That was someone else that you had worked with, or was Joey the person that you said that was like the best closer?
No, any top like prior to that, no, it was like I had gotten introduced to incredible closers like Jim Launch. They had some really good salespeople. They just had like the team was stacked during 2021. Yeah. Like there was so much talent there. It was crazy. Like a lot of guys now are like starting their own businesses, 7-figure businesses. Like it was just stacked with talent during that time. And just getting out of my like SaaS bubble, because I came from SaaS, and so like I thought all these companies operated like SaaS companies. Like all these, I didn't understand that the high ticket world existed, or like the coaching consult. I didn't know that these companies even were a thing. And so got trained really well by my first company like that. But anyways, to answer your question, no, Joey was basically the head of like growth there, like kind of a CRO almost type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you interact with him, you were like, "Yep, we connect." What do you feel like he was like a natural complement to you, or do you feel like you guys are both kind of have similar skill sets?
Yeah, when we worked together, like it was just instant like synergy, and we thought differently, but in a way that complemented each other. And so we were on the same page a lot, and he hit me up and he was like, "Man, like let's do this," type of thing. He had already acquired a client, and so I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds cool. Like let's roll. Let's just see what happens." I felt like I was ready at that point. To an extent, to be a little bit more, isolate or independent.
Yeah. So when did that officially start?
Mayish, April or May
this year
of 22.
Or 22. So tell me about the transition of, because you've managed teams, you built teams, you've built outbound teams, you did this for other people. Now suddenly you have this boutique sales company. What does it solve, and what was the difference in building that for yourself, right? In terms of selling these systems, right, and selling how to scale these things. What's the difference between doing it yourself versus having done it for so many other people?
Good question. And to be honest with you, at this point, not that much, in the sense that like the only thing because we're still very much hands-on with the teams. Like we're not selling some product or anything like that. Like we're still very much hands-on with the teams, like building it, just doing it. I have a little bit more freedom now, like in terms of, who we work with or whatever, but we have around, I don't know, 8 to 10 clients right now. And so like we're learning a lot of different skill sets, and we haven't marketed really, we still no marketing yet.
Word of mouth
so far. But we're learning. Well, that's one thing that's on our mind, is like getting out there, because we have no social media presence really. Joey does a little bit on Facebook, but it's mostly network and stuff. So it's now becoming like just stacking skills. At the end of the day, like it's like, okay, cool. We know we can close or like get set meetings or whatever. Then it's like, okay, we know we can lead teams pretty well. Still learning to become better at that stuff for sure, at everything really. But now it's like, okay, cool. What other skills do we need to acquire and build upon? So that's kind of the biggest difference, is like thinking more of like an entrepreneur as opposed to an employee. And it was a transition for sure. Like it was not comfortable,
Yeah. What's been like? Yeah, tell me honestly. How do you feel? Do you like it? Do you like what you guys have been doing in comparison to the things you've done in the past?
Yes, because I know that we're setting up the foundation of what's to come. Like right now, we're basically fractional leaders and managers, and so nothing's changed. But like, I enjoy being able to have different companies, to be able to coach different companies and hopefully provide value to like leadership and, you know, just consulting in a way to leadership, but then also like sales coaching and all these things. We're still very much hands-on, and so wearing a lot of hats. But yeah, I enjoy it, but just due to the fact that I know that like we're building the foundation of something pretty special. You know, so.
Yeah, that's very cool. So tell me about vision for future. Like, are you thinking like, man, I would love to hit this ARR level. I would love to hit this. Do you have a vision of like the type of clients, like specific clients you want to work with? Or do you have a vision for like how much do you want to coast versus how much do you want to grow?
So since we started, our focus was not growth whatsoever. It was just serve the people that we have and hopefully get some testimonials and build just like a chunk of revenue that we feel like is going to be safe, and that we can operate from a place of a little bit of abundance to where it's like we don't need anything, you know? So now going forward, we want to grow the right way. And what we believe is an area that we can provide value is like developing leaders within organizations. And not just the classic like B2C sales coaching, like here it is, like here's how to close, or here's how to set meetings or whatever. It's like we want to attract the type of person that is in this world for the long haul. They're not here to get rich quick. They are here to build a great skill set, you know, et cetera, from the B2C side, right? So like potentially something to do with like developing leaders, or, you know, giving people the skill set to take a step up in their career and advance. And then from a B2B side, like, yeah, when we look at growth, it's all, I mean, if you're running a remote company, all you can really do is like provide services, you know, one-to-one or like one-to-many, or a product, you know, et cetera. So like the next logical step would be to do some sort of like information combined with coaching. Because right now we have no information. Like there's zero products that you can consume from us. It's just all hands-on. I mean, we have like processes and SOPs and stuff that are internal for the organizations, but like there's nothing that we sell. So that would be kind of the next logical step. It's just a matter of what that looks like, and, you know, we'll see. But we always feel like the done for you agency stuff will kind of be like there as kind of the backbone, and then like expand with hiring more leaders in our organization, more companies, stuff like that. Bring on more companies, and then like naturally just progress down in terms of like, you know, level of service.
So you sell, so you do you sell the done for you, and then eventually you want to scale to the done with you, and then eventually you want to have some kind of product to be able to do as a DIY. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. We'll talk. We're going to talk after this.
Cool.
I got ideas for you. So, but I like that a lot. Do you think like I want to have you talk to yourself at different seasons based on what you're talking about now, because we've referenced stories, we've done the non-LinkedIn version. So to close this, right, I want to be sensitive to your time. What knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself as the person that's like, I want to go combine all these things, like after your father's death, right? Like you assessed everything, you said, I want to go attack these things. Is there something that you wished you would have done differently, better, worse? Like, are you proud of yourself in that moment? Like, what part of that do you connect with? I think a lot of people sit there. That's why I ask.
And so this is if I were to talk to myself or somebody that was like in that same situation and sitting kind of in that doubt.
Yeah.
Good question. I think it just comes back to like being honest with yourself, like, and that takes some courage, you know, that definitely takes some courage, I think, to truly sit down and have honest conversations with yourself. It's like, why are you doing what you're doing? Like asking why, like, why do you want that? Why do you think you want that? Where did this really come from? And then just being able to have the kind of the self-awareness and the just overall the self-awareness to sit down and ask yourself the hard questions.
Yeah.
You know, Why are you here?
Do you-
Why do you want this? Where do you want to go? Where did this come from? Who put this inside of you? Was it you? Just write. I wrote a lot at that time too. I wrote and read a lot during that period for sure.
Do you are there habits that you had then that you still have now? Like, do you still journal? Do you still read? Do you still work out to that same extent?
Yes. If anything, to be honest with you, I don't do those things as much as I should now. I feel like I probably should do a little bit more of those things in terms of being able to kind of like journal or however you like to do it. It's like I've carried those things for sure, but to the frequency that I wish, probably not. I would actually probably want to do that more often. But those are definitely powerful for sure. I mean, I'm still very much self-critical and always trying to examine why I'm doing what I'm doing and like seeing if it's truly optimal.
Do you you've talked a lot about, like, you've referenced multiple points of self-sabotage, regret. And I want to talk to people that are feeling that, especially people that are feeling like imposter syndrome. Because even though you say that you struggle with that, I see so much action and I see so much like intentional steps of overcoming it where you're just like, you know, like, man, who cares? I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to send the DM. I'm just going to pick up everything and move. I'm just going to, like, I see evidence of the action you've taken to overcome it. What would you encourage to others that feel a similar level? Because you might even look back and you might say, like, yep, it was, I thought about it too much before I actually did it, or I hesitated too much, or I still limited myself from doing other things that I know I should have done. Can you speak to someone can you speak to the wantrepreneur? Can you speak to the person that's like, that doesn't believe in themselves and believes that they're the person that can actually get it done?
Yeah. Good question. I think it's just going to be a matter of like having something that you're running. I mean, Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot, is like everybody has a heaven to run towards and a hell to run from. And if your hell, if you can sit and look and say, because there was a moment for me personally when I was like substitute teaching and personal training, I was like, I got done with the day. I was like, this cannot be my life for the next 20 years, 50 years, however long, right? I was like, this cannot do it. And so for me, there was both of it, like, you've got to create, for me, I can't give it, I don't really want to say give advice, but what was for me was like, I had such a strong hell to run from, and I had a really strong like heaven to run towards, because like I had this idea of like what my life could be like, and also this hell to run from, and I was fortunate to have my dad die, like it because it gave me so much life, and it gave me like, make him proud, like go make something of yourself, and like you don't have to be like some crazy billionaire, but like just, you know, go do good, you know, go make something of yourself, because when you're in your early 20s or young 20s or mid 20s as a man, like there's that pressure of like, yo, you got to make something of yourself, like, you know, go make people proud, or just go do something, you know. And so I had a strong hell to run from, and a new heaven to run towards, I guess. So create that if you can. Like it would be my, like, if that's what worked for me, at least.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I feel like I could do a whole another hour with you, dude, and just talk to you about that kind of stuff. I want to end it there because I want to be sensitive to your time. But thanks so much for giving this value to my community and sharing your story. I think there's a lot of things for people to resonate with. And I want to charge you to do what you're doing, but to be more proactive in sharing it. And I know you took a step out and you were like, Grant, you know, like let's record this, let's talk. I want to share my story. And I know you're going to do that with more people, but people need to hear the value that you have. People need to hear about your experience. People need to resonate with your story because it speaks to where they're at. And you don't have a personality that comes across as arrogant or demanding or even like desperate for attention. Rather, you have a personality that is backed by so much evidence of the things you're talking about, where I could say exactly the same thing you said. And it carries less weight because I don't, like, everything you just talked about for the last hour. When you talk about, I have this hell to run from and heaven to run toward, I see it. I see that the whole way through. And I think other people will as well. And my hope is that there's people that take one small step of action to send that DM, to make that call, to quit that job, to start that business in a way that makes sense for them. But to just be encouraged that there's someone else that's like you that did it. and that's still doing it, right? You're still making your journey, you're still making your process, but I charge you. You have to keep going, and you have to tell more people about it because other people need that encouragement. If I had heard your story last year, I would have quit my job a lot faster. So I just want to encourage you, like you should proclaim this in more unique ways, in different ways, and find the balance of it, because there's people out there that need to hear it. There's people out there that aren't doing stuff that need to do stuff, and they will, because they're going to hear your story and your version. Even it's connected to all these other people. You are unique in how you've done it. So, yeah, I just want to say thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your energy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. And anybody that like resonates with that is like, I'm still going through it because this is my next step. Because Grant knows, like, I was like, I don't want to go on this podcast. Like, I haven't, like, I kind of want to, but like, I'm still a little bit nervous to even like speak publicly. I don't really care if 10 people see it or 100 people, or however many people. Like, I still have this like imposter syndrome. Like, don't tell your story. Like, no, like, you're not going to provide value. So I'm still going through it. And so hopefully I can still be an example of that, going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody. As always, send this to one person. I think there's a lot of people that need to hear this. So send it to those people because we need this encouragement. Jacob, thank you so much. Where can people find you? Where can people connect with you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And you can find me, I guess, at Jacob F. Morales on Instagram. And that's really,
Cool.
That's it. It's where the only place you can kind of find me.
For now.
For now. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks everybody. Have a good one.